Hello ladies, gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new New World video. Once again, we're back with a Bruiser guide, arguably the most requested video on the channel, and today we will be releasing a full comprehensive guide for Bruiser for New World Aeternum. This guide is gonna focus for a medium Bruiser with heavy emphasis on OPRs and wars. We're not gonna be looking into any small scale PvP, anything like that. If you're playing Bruiser, you're interested in 50v50, you're interested in OPR. That being said, this guide will be made on my fresh character account. Therefore, not every piece of item will be best in slot. However, I will tell you a complete full best in slot rundown, but you will also get to see some of the pre-bis options that are very good for a lot of newer accounts. The first thing I want to mention are artifacts. Let's start with the only important artifact when it comes to armor, and that is the Tumbler Feet Wraps. These are obtained from OPR boxes, and the best way to get them is to stockpile the OPR caches, then unequip everything, and then open them. That's gonna give you the highest chance for a tumbler drop or the Koya guard drops, which are the legs which nobody uses, but that's the highest chance to actually land on the tumblers. So if you have been struggling to land on those, open OPR caches while wearing no armor. When it comes to weapons, you can run a Tempest Fury artifact, but I would only recommend that for select few specific point players. I personally do not have it on the fresh character yet, but I have been heavily experimenting with Tempest Fury on my original main character. And then when it comes to jewelry, your best option is Amulet of Ankh, where once again currently on the fresh server on 102 PvP track without an Amulet of Ankh yet, so I'm using the second best option, which is the Elemental Bend, even though I don't have the last perk on it just yet. But again, do as much PvP as you can, get Amulet of Ankh. It's arguably an insanely important upgrade when it comes to Bruisers, so try your best to get it as fast as possible. The first thing we're gonna go over are the weapons. Arguably, the weapons are the easiest to know what to go for, and this is a very solid pre-bis option. These Hoplite Warhammers drop from a brand new raid, and so does this Hoplite Greataxe. And again, we are on the fresh character. This is actually the second build I'm working, so both of those are not perfect. Now, I'll give you the best in slot option as a start. For a hammer, that would be Shockwave as a perk, Trenchant Strikes, and Plague Strikes. That trio combination is going to be your best in slot for hammer. However, if you want to go through this a little bit cheaper, you can land on a Hoplite Warhammer and you can just manually put Shockwave on it, or if you're a greedy bastard, you can just put a damaging perk on it. The Disdained Infliction paired with Keenly Jagged will actually farm your Heartrune quite fast, so it's not even a bad option to begin with, and it is a baseline 7-5 gear score, so it gives you the most damage output that you can. When it comes to Greataxe, however, the Hoplite is really not that great. This is a turbo placeholder for me, and I will either manually craft a refreshing move Maelstrom Attunement Greataxe, which would be best in slot, or I will use a Tempest Fury, which ends up being a refreshing move, Whirlwind, and you add on attunement to that Greataxe as well. There are two different skill trees when it comes to utilizing the normal Greataxe or the Tempest Greataxe, and I'll show you that a little bit later. The problem why Hoplite Greataxe is not that good is because you cannot put a refreshing move on it. So this is the only thing in the build that I really need to replace as fast as possible. But with that being said, and with you having a full understanding of what best in slot would be, let's move over to armor. Now, just to not waste your time, the best possible perks at the moment, in my opinion, is Freedom Enchanted Ward / Conditioning. You need to make sure you have 4 freedoms on your build as a Bruiser, especially with the grit nerfs, so you can uptime your left clicks as much as possible. You don't want to have downtime where you're stunned, where you're unable to attack. You want to perma swing, you want to not be stunned. Freedom is by far, in my opinion, the most important perk on a Bruiser, and you need 4 of them. Follow that up with Enchanted Wards. Can be extremely good, and this is where a very first named item comes to play, the Hoplite Hat. Now, you may be wondering, how do you get this? Once again, a Gorgon raid. It is a pretty common drop. I think I have like 4 of these, but these end up dropping with health. So I don't have / conditioning here, but this is an item I'm not planning to replace until I cover all the other full bis options. For example, this would be my handcrafted option, a Freedom Enchanted Ward / Conditioning. However, I will eventually end up replacing these legs with Worm Drop. So this is where I have to complicate things a little bit for you to make sense as to what I'm saying. Unfortunately, for most people, Trial of the Devourer is outside of the picture. But if you happen to be a select few of people that does end up clearing Worm on the weekly, you can get some illegal perks such as these Sandlion Coxa. Elemental version Kiln empowered. You can add Freedom to this, you can add Gravity Well to this, whatever. Just so you know, there are illegal perks available that would probably be pretty damn decent. But I'm not gonna necessarily cover all of those options in this video. Now, to continue back and to go further, the one perk that I didn't mention that I think is super decent is actually Thorny Reflection. You're able to have that perk only on the chest or on the gloves, and I do think every bruiser should have this on one of the pieces, simply due to the fact that you will be attacked all the time. Reducing the attacker's crit chance by 10% seems pretty decent, but also you deal bonus damage, so what is there not to like here? Again, this is by no means a best in slot piece, but it is a piece I got completely for free, so I'm not planning to update it anytime soon until I cover other areas, if that makes sense. So again, I have Freedom, which is a perfect perk, Health, which is a half a perk, and Thorny, which is a perfect perk. I'll take this item for now. It is a pre-beast item for me. Moving on to the gloves, this is one of the full beast items in my opinion. We have Enchanted Ward / Conditioning, and we put Insatiable Gravity Well. Insatiable Gravity Well is the one perk you absolutely need on your bruiser, and the second perk that is extremely good is Enfeebling Maelstrom. We do want to put that on the Greataxe if you're playing a standard Greataxe, again, with Refreshing Move, with Attunement, just to refresh your memory. However, you can get away with not playing it, but you cannot get away with not playing Insatiable Gravity Well. You need this perk. I happen to have it on this Hoplite staff, but please don't let this distract you from the fact that you don't want to have that shit on the weapon, okay? You want to have that on the gloves or on any of your armor, right? I happen to put it on the gloves since I have the Thorny Reflection on my body. It seems to be the best option for me. Moving down to the legs, as I previously mentioned, I have in my opinion, full beast legs temporarily with Freedom Enchanted Ward / Conditioning here. I will actually replace this with, again, the pants that you get from Worm once I drop them, simply due to the fact that it's gonna give me even a little bit more damage. However, these pants are gonna be very good for a very long time. And then moving on to tumblers, I did end up putting Freedom on those. That's because I wanna play them on multiple different builds. If you don't wanna play them on multiple builds and you're only interested into playing tumblers for your bruiser, you can also put a Gravity Well on this, and then you look for Freedom on all of your other 4 pieces. Now, a couple of worthy mentions here are the 700 options, which is a Frigid Dawn set. The Frigid Dawn set is obtained from a frozen dungeon, which is right over here in the Great Cleave. I don't actually know the specific name for it, hopefully. Oh, it's a Glacial Tarn. There you go. So in Glacial Tarn, you can get Frigid Dawn set, and you can push those items up to 700 gear score, so they can be a very good pre-beast option. And again, you can add conditionings onto those, or you can add Freedom onto those, and they are gonna do great. So that will cover both the body and the legs for your pre-beast options. And now let's move over to Jewellery. Now, this is a very solid farmable pre-beast option, Soul Shroud Amulet. You add Stamina Recovery / Protection and Health onto this, and you can farm this over here in Murgard. So by teleporting to the Invictus Shrine, you can do a little loop here and just kill the named bosses, the mages and the little brutes. And eventually you're gonna receive this drop, which you can then upgrade to 700 in the Kiln to have a very good 3-perker 700 gear score amulet. Again, this is pre-beast. As soon as you drop Ankh, you should push it to 725. You should add Stamina Recovery onto Ankh. Some people will tell you to add / Protection onto it. They are coping. Add Stamina Recovery. By far the most important perk for a bruiser. It will save you out of so many situations. Don't listen to anybody that tells you differently. Trust me. Moving on to the ring. Best in slot option at the moment would be Hearty, Slash Damage, and Empowered Cleave. You can create that ring as a 700 gear score from Privateer Heirloom. Privateer Heirloom is a drop that you can get from doing Barnacles Mutated, which is located right down here in Cutlass next to Admiral Shrine. But that will be your 700 gear score option, and if you want to go for a 725 gear score option, you're gonna have to clear the raid, you're gonna have to do your Gorgon Craft, and you're gonna have to manually pick your Hearty, Slash Damage, and Empowered Cleave. You could argue putting Invict Punishment somewhere in that as well, but in my opinion, that is the best. Hearty, Slash Damage, Empowered Cleave. And lastly, Earring, arguably the easiest one to really 3-perk it. This is not a 3 perker. This is a 2 and a 1/3 of a perker. But what you really want on your earring is Refreshing Toast, Regenerating, and Fortifying Toast. Some people will argue that Nimble is better than Regenerating. Those people are trolling. Regenerating is by far better in my professional opinion. Once again, you can trust my opinion. You can trust your own practice, your own opinion. I think Fortifying Toast, Refreshing Toast, Regenerating, by far the best perks you can have on an earring. But again, I'm valuing my gear score here, so I'm just using this Gorgon earring that I got for free. Again, we are located on our fresh character, so my gear is not perfect. Now that we have the weapons out of the way, the armor out of the way, we have jewelry out of the way, let's quickly touch up on the Heartrunes. You really have 3 options as a bruiser, but one being extremely dominating. And that is not actually the Brutal Heartrune of Vines. This is what usually the baiters play. I'll explain those terms a little bit later. But everybody should be realistically playing Brutal Heartrune of Detonate. Now, you may be wondering where you get that. You get it from the Inead. Right over here in the Brimstone. You clear the Brimstone, you get the Detonate, you make it into a Brutal variant. And that's gonna be your best option for a long time. Another alternative you can potentially run is Lazarus, so the stone form. In that case, you would be running the Stalwart stone form, which will basically heal you and make you perma-gritted, right? So you can't be CC'd. You can do that in Lazarus over here north of Reekwater, next to Lazarus Shrine. Definitely worth having even for some other builds. But here is my personal favorite. Obviously, as a shot caller, I'm also the baiter. Meaning that I will be soaking aggro for a lot of people for a long time. And when I'm gonna be, yo guys, we're bombing in 3, 2, 1, I'm gonna be vining, locking people in place, and then creating setup for the rest of my team. Another very important thing are your resistances. What gems, what rune glasses you actually wanna run on your builds. Now, a very simple rule of thumb, in my opinion, is run 3 opals and the rest onyxes. However, this can start changing a little bit depending on how deep into your gear you are. If you have a lot of slash conditionings, it's even more advised to just run straight up onyxes. If you don't have a lot of slash conditioning, slotting in something like a moonstone can be very good in the current meta, but it also depends what kind of wars or what kind of situations you play the build in. If you happen to be taking a lot of fire damage, slot an extra opal. Now, I'm not advising you to slot a straight up ruby, simply due to the fact that you rather put in opals so you protect against ice, void, fire, everything, than just specifically focus on the one protection. However, in this case, you can see I have a lot of slash damage resistance. That is obviously due to my amulet having the slash protection on it. But when you end up getting an Ankh, you will probably not put slash protection on it. So in those cases, it is okay to substitute one of your onyxes for something like a moonstone that gives you a 5% slash resistance. Other than that, I wouldn't overcomplicate your defensives with the rune glass when it comes to Bruiser, because you really just want max amount of defenses. You don't want that little bit of aggression. And when it comes to weapons, you do have a couple of options. Now, first of all, when it comes to my personal opinion, I think Malachite overlaps Opal every single day of the week. As a bruiser, you want to really value your stamina, and if you don't need to dodge in this meta, it is better to not dodge. It is better to use the homing on your weapons to actually move you around the battlefield. So in my opinion, Malachite instantly gains big priority. What that does, it basically deals 10% bonus damage all the time against targets affected by crowd control effects. I personally have Malachite rune glasses on both of my hammer and my Greataxe, and they are with a different tick. As you can see, one of them is Arboreal, which is gonna deal a little bit of nature damage. The other one is Electrified, which is gonna do a little bit of electric damage. And the reason you want to have those working differently to each other is because they will further generate your Heartrune stacking, basically. And you don't want them to be exactly the same, because then there is no overlapping going on. So, there has been some cookery where you would maybe put like literally Arboreal gem in your Greataxe or something like that, since people are stacking slash protection. I personally don't believe it is worth it. Some people prefer it. So just letting you know, the option is out there. I personally would just go double Malachite, not worry about it, and that's my personal preference. Again, I do see a reasoning for putting a different gem in the Greataxe if that is something you prefer. However, I would not put anything different in Warhammer. In the past, there used to be meta where you would put an Onyx on it, because that would really work well with opening act of Armor Breaker. So, that option is still available, and obviously Opal has always been in a discussion to be the best option as well, but in order for Opal to work, you always need to pre-dodge and use your stuff. In most cases, at least in wars, that is not always the best thing to do. Alright, now that you have a very good understanding of just about everything, let's quickly touch on the consumables. You're gonna be using infused health potions throughout the entire playtime of New World. In Wars, you're gonna be using regeneration serums. In OPRs, you're gonna be using normal regeneration potions. I recommend tier 4s, honestly, when you're playing OPRs, but obviously in Wars, if it's early, if it's fresh server, you're using tier 5s, but if you can, you're using serums. That's gonna be by far your best option. When it comes to consumables, you're either picking between powerful oak flesh bombs, which is gonna obviously protect you for 20 seconds against physical damage, or you can pick something like a powerful gemstone dust, which is gonna protect you against elemental damage. Or if you're dying to specific damage, usually that would be fire damage, you can also use something like an infused fire absorption potion, which is gonna strictly protect you against that fire damage. All of those are very viable options at the moment. And as you can see, I have one consumable slot empty. This slot will usually be used for a cleansing potion when we're talking from a war scenario, or for something like a hearty meal when we're talking from an open world scenario, or maybe even an OPR scenario. So this is fine. I usually leave it empty, and if I need a hearty meal as I'm playing, I will usually just click tab and just use a hearty meal like this while I'm running. So keep that in mind, that is something that is possible for you to do as well. Now, alternative consumables that you should be using before war, you should be popping your Desert Sunrise, you should be popping your Roasted Rabbit with seasoned veggies, and you should be popping your Honing Stones, and you should be popping your Hearty Meal. When you click K and you click your attributes, this is what you are looking at. So, if you're going for mainly Gorgon gear, you're gonna come to a problem that a lot of people are experiencing, which is a magnify issue. Meaning that you can never reach a perfect set that you would want, which would be 350, 300, due to magnify issues. No matter how I wanna complicate this shit around, it's never gonna be 350, 300. So the way you fix that in the future is by having one 725 piece that lands on a Constitution, okay? Constitution. So every time you're doing your daily openings, put your attribute magnify to con, have the bias set up into your best Bruiser setup, and then just open your daily crafts and hope you land on Constitution. That's a little bit of a side thing that you should definitely work on. Hope you land on a full biz for free, literally. If not, this is your best bet. You could also argue going like 277 con or whatever, so basically don't put any points in strength, just put them in con, get as close to 300 as you can, and that's gonna be your best option. I'm a little bit of a greedy bastard, I just put everything in strength and I just reached 250 con in order to get that base damage reduction when we're full health, which is oftentimes very fucking good, right? When you're playing Bruiser, you're very often full health, because obviously you're paired with a healer in most war scenarios, in most OPR scenarios as well. But again, a best in slot possible option would actually be 350 strength and 300 con, only possible in a full 725 gear score setup. So that's why you want to be pushing for those 725s everywhere when you can, to eventually reach 350, 300. Now we're coming to a spicy part of the video. Let's go ahead and talk about the Greataxe Mastery. This is going to be for our non-Tempest Fury enjoyers. So we're talking refreshing move Maelstrom attunement builds. This is what you want to be playing. 1 point in charge is important, everything in Maelstrom is important, everything in Gravity Well is important. That's your baseline, and then you start picking up the good perks. Greed will give your light attacks an empower, a great perk. Death's Embrace is gonna give you penetration. Critical gains are gonna be pretty good, healing you on the crits. You actually end up healing a decent amount with this. Critical damage increase from the Keen's Edge is very good. Some people might be wondering why are you taking Frustration. This is extremely good, especially in a war scenario. There's always an SNS blocking you. So if you're doing your usual combo with your detonates and you do a spin and there happens to be an SNS blocking, right? You're now gonna be stronger, you're now gonna be empowered. And we finish this off with Feed. But really, you can get rid of Feed and just put it in any of the other perks. Even something like Executioner Speed can be decent. Because the realistic scenario is you will very rarely heal from dealing damage to people that are less than 30% health. Just so you know. So this perk is almost like bait in a way. Moving on to the right side to the Mauler's tree, the most important is actually Mauler's Resolve. So if you're getting hit while holding a Greataxe and you're below 50% health, you gain 40 stamina. Almost a free dodge. Enduring Strike is really good. You get damage reduction when you're greeted. And sure, you may be wondering, wait, but I'm not greeted as much anymore. Still, it's a good perk. You don't really want to take this because it's bad. You don't really really want to take this because it's bad as well. And this one is horrible as well. So really, these are the best perks you will ever be picking when it comes to Greataxe. But now for a page that would utilize the Tempest Fury. If you don't know, Tempest Fury is a Greataxe artifact that specializes around Whirlwind. So let's make you a very quick page regarding that as well. So this would be your usual Whirlwind Spin Greataxe build. However, I tend to sometimes be, again, pretty greedy, and I tend to drop one of the side perks in order to land on Frustration as well. Now, there is really not a good option as to what to drop. Like, Center of Attention is gonna give you Empower when 3 or more fours are around you. That's like all the time. Crowded Protection is super good as well. Fortify when you're standing in your grave is super good as well. So, unironically, I genuinely think losing Enduring Strikes for Frustration might make sense. But yeah, pick between these two. Play around with it, see what works for you. I would probably play this, but also this is like 12% base damage reduction, like it's too good. So honestly, I think when you're playing a Whirlwind, you have to just get rid of Frustration, basically. That would be my page if I played the Tempest Fury. But now to move over to a Warhammer, this is where you really have a lot of potential. I would even argue there are builds where Wrecking Ball, Armor Breaker, and Shockwave are also back. However, I'm a big enjoyer of Path of Destiny. I think this skill is so good on Bruisers. You can throw this in a clump, you can throw this on the healers, it charges your Heartrunes super quick, it has a ridiculous uptime, and again, this is my super greedy build. You will soon notice that my greedy build is missing exhaustive attacks. Now, if you played for my company, exhaustive attacks are pretty damn important, okay? This is a pretty damn important perk to have, but the Hammer has so many good perks where you really just need to pick and choose which ones you're dropping. And what I mean by that is this is your usual baseline. You have all your shock perks, you have all your POD perks, and then you have all of your armor breaker perks. Now, some people could even drop opening act, for example. I think this is like too important to drop. But now you have 7 points available to drop between the things. And if you're a greedy player like me, and you utilize the hammer heavy light dragging combos a lot, I almost always take acceleration and quick recovery, and this is where I differ from most of the bruisers in this game. Heavy attacks reducing my cooldown, and light attacks reducing my cooldown. Now you may be wondering, why would this guy do that? And to put it simply, I can move myself around the point without ever needing to use the stamina by utilizing half heavy, left click, half heavy, left click, and just dragging myself around the point by looking at people and using half heavies, left click, half heavies, left click. What this generates is my spells come back super fast, obviously, but also I'm moving without using stamina. And this is something that not a lot of bruisers do. You want to make sure you have your stamina available for the big bomb calls. You don't want to be wasting that around. Let's continue on with what perks I would absolutely take on a Warhammer. Healing from using spells, super important. Dealing increased damage against stuff that is debuffed, very damn good. Deal 35% extra damage 1 second after taking damage, that is amazing right here. And once again, we are in a dilemma. Do we take more armor penetration? We can do that. Do we maybe wanna go for Aftershock? You could do that as well. This is more like damage oriented and to try and make sure to confirm the kills. But you can get rid of Contemptation and put it in the exhaustive attacks. That will work. You can get rid of exhaustive attacks and move it into something like Guarded Sprint, but I wouldn't recommend it. So really the last one I would either put here in the exhaustive attacks or here in the Contemptation. Let's just say we go like this as a baseline. So again, most quad bruisers would probably end up playing a page like this, or obviously a page with exhaustive attacks. And I wouldn't really finesse too much around with this. This is gonna be a really good option. However, if you were to want to play Wrecking Ball, Armor Breaker, and Shockwave, make sure you're implementing all of these good passives in that as well, and just get rid of these 3 in POD, add them into this, and you're basically chilling. Okay, ladies, gentlemen, we managed to make it through just about all the yapping and talking, and we made it to the part where I will very quickly talk to you a little bit about the Gypsum Kiln. Gypsum Kilns are located throughout the entire map. My personal favorite is over here in Eden Grove, and this is where you're actually gonna end up spending most of your money when it comes to finalizing your gear. Let's take Frigid Dawn stuff for example. As you can see, I currently own this Frigid Dawn set in 650 gear score. Very bad, right? But by simply adding a little bit of dark matter, 1 gypsum orb, and 3 chromatic seals, which you can get every day from your faction member for 5,000 coins. So we're basically investing 15k and about 13k from an armor matrix. And I can manually choose the third perk here. Some people will go for freedom / conditioning. Some people will put for a gravity well, something like that. And you will end up getting a 700 gear score with enchanted word elemental aversion and the perk of your choice. Now you can see if you put a / conditioning onto this piece, that would be a very solid piece to put on your gear. So again, to very quickly explain some more about chromatic seals, you get them from your faction representatives in every single city. You need to make sure you have done all of your quests to become basically a champion, and by clicking on rewards you can scroll down, you can buy your gypsum orbs every day, but right here hidden in the plain sight is a chromatic seal for 20,000 and 5,000 coins. Make sure you buy this. I usually like to keep about 9 of them. I think right now I even have like almost 20 of them, so I don't buy them at the moment, right? But that's where you get your gypsums every single day. That's where you can get your chromatic seal every single day as well, and you honestly should be doing that in order to be ready for your future builds that you plan on playing as well. And Gypsum Kiln works very similarly when it comes to your artifacts as well, and that's where I would recommend you to use all of your coconuts, original coconuts that you get. I would extremely heavily recommend you to use those gold cursed coconuts to make all of your artifacts 725 gear score with a perfect perk to begin with. We're talking tumblers, make them 725, put either freedom or / conditioning or gravity well on them. If you play Tempest Fury, make it 725 and put attunement on it. If you're using Ankh, make it 725 and put stamina recovery or / protection on it. Probably stamina recovery, but some people will value / protection more. I really don't think it's worth it, but those two options are your best options. That's gonna give you the most damage output from your artifacts, the most armor from your artifacts, the most defensives from your artifacts, and the same idea goes. You're gonna be needing a matrix, some dark matter, some gypsum orbs, some chromatic seals, and most importantly, these gold cursed coconuts. If you do not know about the gold cursed coconuts at this point in the game, you've really been missing out. Those are once a week rewards that you can get right here from the bottom left in Cutlass Keys. You enter the mist, you find the big glowing chest, and you loot it. Once a week you have to do this, you get the gold cursed coconut. Do not miss it. And if you're a PvEer, you're also gonna end up getting Gorgonite inductors. With those you can make Gorgon Essence, and with those you can craft pieces like this Gorgonite Greaves, which you can literally handpick your perks. However, it is very, very expensive, right? So do your raids, do your weekly coconuts, and if you can, do your worms as well. They're gonna help you get to your dream builds much faster. I believe at this point I dropped so much knowledge to you that I think it is time to talk a little bit about the combos, how you actually wanna play this build. And the thing is, the build is honestly very simple. You want to pair this build with other group members, whether it is having a friend on an IGVG setup and having a healer, or whether it is being in a complete war scenario with another Bruiser, an IGVG, and a healer, and you're a 4-man pair looking to follow up on your shot caller. So most shot callers are gonna be counting down the time where you plan to bomb. So the way I would do it is I would tell my players, hey guys, we're looking left side in 5, 4, 3, 2, and then if it doesn't happen, I'll be like, yo, never mind guys, never mind. But if it happens, I'll be like, top left, top left, top left, and that's when you pop it. That's when you pop your gemstone or oak flesh. That's where you pop your regen. That's where you pop your cleansing, which we don't have, and you use your little graph combos. You can pair it with a shock, follow it up with a spin, and the explosion of your detonate. If you don't have those spells, don't be afraid. Just use your gravity well and some left clicks. Do you happen to not have your gravity well available at the time when the bomb is called? Well, you probably threw it for no reason, but if that happens, chuck a little armor breaker into the clump, chuck a little shockwave into the clump. Do you see that the bomb is happening a little bit far away and you have POD available? Well, you have two options. Either you POD the healers, stagger their heals, or you are a greedy bastard and you chuck a POD onto the clump. Get your Heartrune back up. A lot of Bruisers are going to be doing that. A lot of people are not going to be the happiest with that. But really, you want to be using Grav, left clicks, spin and detonate at the same time with your cleansing for the bombs with your caller, and you're gonna be utilizing your shock for your own survivability or to basically lock people in place. Like, it's so fucking simple. Just use your abilities, have high uptime on your spells, don't be like sleeping, left click as much as possible. I'm having conversations in the damn video at the same time here with Proxy, but you get the idea. The build is super simple. Now, arguably what makes a very good Bruiser is an ability to communicate with with your healer. Do you know you just fucked up? You did the Mika dodges, you're now out of stamina. Tell your healer, yo, I fucked my stam, I need heals, I need heals, I need heals. Comms like that, or like, I'm pushing top left, I'm pushing top left. Your healer, if he has hands, he will tell you, don't push top left, I can't reach it. Or, you get the idea, communicate with your group as much as possible. Another thing a good bruiser will always keep in mind is, are the other people low HP in your group? If I see, I always look top left. If my group members are low HP, I dodge out, I wait it out. I literally wait it out. And then I re-enter when everybody is full health, when everybody is ready. Yeah? Find your sacreds, play your sacreds. You see a sacred on the floor, don't leave it. Hold your ground, left click it through, you know, boom boom. It's fucking simple. Honestly, I don't want to overcomplicate this, but do your full combos with your callers. If you're interested in more Bruiser gameplay in clump scenarios, check out my VODs, check out the million videos that we have on the channel. Literally playing Bruiser, and there is a lot you can learn from just observing other Bruisers play or observing your own gameplay. That's why VOD reviews are so crucial if you wanna like really improve in the game. I think I talked about literally everything in this video. If there is something that I missed, I'm gonna make sure I leave it in the comment section. But if this video helped you in any shape or form, please do consider dropping a video a like. Let me know in the comments if I managed to help you out. And maybe consider subscribing. We are trying to have this channel surpass our main RuneScape channel, which is a long shot, but it's something we're working towards. Alongside that, you can catch me live almost every single day on Twitch and on YouTube, so definitely do subscribe if you're interested in that. And I'll see you again very soon with another video. Have a good one, be safe, and bye-bye.